This unusual looking radio here is the Silvertone model 9226. It has a case unlike any other radio I've ever seen. To open the lid and get at the controls, you have to undo these latches. And then it swings open. If this radio wasn't already named the Wayfarer, I'd name it the Treasure Chest, because that's what it looks like to me. Some sort of sci-fi treasure chest. The lid has a little damper here, but it's kind of worn out, so if I were to just let the lid go and my monitor wasn't there, it would slam down. This radio was introduced in 1959 and sold for $170 at that time. It was cheaper than the Zenith Transoceanic, which I believe sold for $250 at that time, but it was still quite a pricey radio. It's also a bit less feature-rich than the Transoceanic, but it's still a nice radio in its own right, as you will see. It's a 9-band radio with 9 transistors. It's actually a reasonably good performer, too, once restored at least. Let's switch it on. This control here. Set it to AM first. That's band number 1. The top of the scale there. The tuning knob moves the pointer the opposite direction you'd expect. I'm not sure if it's just this particular one and the way it was strung, or if that's how they all are, but I didn't change it.
Habitat wireless Wi-Fi thermostat. They say it's 68 degrees. I maybe trip them up.
I'll circle back to that channel when there's music on. Well, if music comes on.
Whatever is not just limited to the area of the triangle of homicides that my guest during
There's unfortunately a lot of interference in here now.
Our mission is to cure leukemia, lymphoma, Hodgkin's disease, and myeloma.
Vansittart, he is the head of the British Foreign Office.
Try to veal. Okay.
4 years of Heat on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The radio does sound pretty good though.
To wake up and have choices.
And it plays pretty loud.
We work the jobs that we choose to work.
Order in Lane Thomas, who was made a rare out in the first inning. He's been so...
An accredited state university, UMGC offers online and hybrid courses.
Huh. I just heard some doors there. It's very faint though. On the back, there's a detachable antenna. Just pop that out. It's the Silvertone antenna pack. It originally had suction cups on each end, but one of them's missing, the other one's pretty much trashed. I've got it on my lap, I'll see if it works better that way. There's 2 stations on the same frequency there.
And that's the second out here on the top of the 3rd.
Oh, that is better.
There's apparently not enough water.
They are serving
levels. And in a cynical point of view, they think it's bad for business. They can't understand why.
Waiting for the rookie Bryce Miller to lead his team out of the Seattle dugout. Very interested in seeing this. The Mariner Moose is on the field. I had thought there'd be a little more...
Sounds much clearer with the antenna moved.
Here.
Nice.
But guess not. Memorial Day. This is a...
Alright, let's move on to the shortwave bands. Let me put this back over here. The antenna is here. The shortwave. Get that all the way out of there before I try to lift it up. Alright. It's got a pretty long antenna. Alright, so we can tune in here. We're on the shortwave 2 band. don't think there's really anything in there. Let's move on to shortwave 3.
Esto porque es un producto bueno, que para darle la
4. I think that's WWV, so it's a little bit out of tune here. Because that station's at exactly 15 megahertz and the pointer's not at 15. I haven't messed with the alignment on this thing now. It's as it was. Usually you don't need to monkey with that too much, at least in my experience. Unless you replace a component in those sections of the RF circuitry. Of course, they also drift, though. This is shortwave 5 now. This is the one that's most crowded with stations. That's it for 5. Let's try 6. This radio has a turret tuner, by the way. It's like a television tuner. It's pretty well made, although a bit hard to turn. They should have put some ribs on the band selector knob that they did on all the other knobs. I don't know why they didn't do that for the knob that's hardest to turn, but that's how they built it.
The second part of that interview.
El pueblo ha hablado. Nu doar guvernul României să dezvolte niște programe, dar și la nivel. Para el éxito del paro nacional, no ir a trabajar a partir de...
Alright, shortwave 7. This radio lacks a fine tuning control, which would be nice to have.
Number to call is 1-800.
Particularly for these bands that cover a pretty wide frequency range. This one goes from 4 to 8 megahertz. Some of the other ones are covering a much narrower range, like basically 21 to 22.
Not this dot.
There's really not much on the old Marine band anymore. Although the upper part of this is outside of that old Marine band. It is marked amateur as well. And then the beacon band is nothing but, random noise here. I'm too far away from the ocean, so generally no beacons here. Just random buzzing noises. And that's all she wrote. You can see it says Magic Glow dial scale here. There's this atom logo. But it's actually not radioactive. It's just regular glow-in-the-dark paint. I checked with the Geiger counter. It doesn't glow very well either. Hit it with some bright light and then switch off the light, but I don't think you'll even be able to see it. Yeah, the camera can't pick it up. I can see it, but the camera can't pick it up. It glows a kind of a deep blue glow, actually, not the usual green. This radio has quite a few bands, but it's otherwise sort of on the basic side. And in terms of ergonomics, the Zenith Transoceanic was definitely the one to beat. And this set did not successfully beat it, but it's still an interesting radio, and not a bad one either. I like those latches. It's a good design. They hold it securely, and they're easy to open and close one-handed. Down here, got the battery compartment. It takes 8 D cells. Here's a jack for, I believe, an external speaker. It's been a while. And there's that antenna. You can see they had to add a third wire, which they just kind of wove into this twin lead cable. Here's the back of the radio. This is the pocket for that removable antenna. Just cleared a dead spider out of here, and I see it left a little egg sac as well. I gotta get that out. There's not a bunch of baby spiders inside the chassis. So there's the antenna back in place. Here's the bottom of the radio. It says, "What we sell, we service too. You can be assured of top performance from your Sears equipment by having it serviced by your nearest Sears service department. Your Sears serviceman is especially trained and uses top quality Silvertone tubes and parts." There's no tubes in here. Designed for your equipment. Sears, Roebuck & Co., U.S. Now, while I've got this thing upside down, if you're taking this set apart, you need to remove this screw here. I put an arrow there to remind myself. You can leave the other screws in place. Those just hold the battery compartments in, but take this guy out. And then you have to remove all these screws, and I believe take the knobs off as well. And then underneath there's a kind of metal frame. I think there might be more screws to take out there. It's been a while since I've had this apart. And I don't feel like taking it apart for this video, because it is a bit of a pain to get out and get back in there. I do have pictures of the chassis though that I'm going to splice into this video, so you guys can see what it looks like inside. The tuner is definitely the most interesting part of it. The rest of it's, you know, pretty standard construction. Although they have a metal box for the tuning capacitor and some of the front end RF circuitry for shielding, so that's a nice touch too. Here's the world as of 1959. Some of these countries don't exist anymore. It's got a nice carry handle up here with a kind of spring-loaded mechanism to retract it back. And on the front is the Silvertone Durpack badge. I'm not sure what the whole deal was with that. I've also seen this same badge on plastic radios, so I don't know what that's intended to signify. It looks a little wonky because I kind of touched it up a bit and didn't do a perfect job, but it was missing a lot of the paint, so it at least looks better than it did. It's also missing a piece of trim on the front there. You can see where this tape residue is. There was a little silver stripe there, just to add a little extra pizzazz. Well, thanks for watching.